Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
They're chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
Jordan Kitchen.
Jordan, 20-footer, head of the cave, good!
I like that one. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Football Tigers had a scrimmage in Tiger Stadium. The baseball Tigers got swept. The Pelican season came to an end. We're talking about all of it. Let's begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
All right, we have a lot to get to. Jake Madison will be here next hour. David DeLucci at the top of hour number 3. I'll get to LSU baseball, but because Saturday was an interesting day in Tiger Stadium because for the first time so far in spring, Lane Kiffin gave us the opportunity to watch the entire practice. So we got to go into Tiger Stadium for about 2.5 hours and watch the Tigers practice, and about 2 hours of the work was a scrimmage whereby LSU had 19 offensive possessions. 1 versus 1s, 2s versus 2s, 3s versus 3s. The first team had 9 possessions. Second team had 7 possessions. Third team had 3 possessions. So I'm going to take my time here and go through offense, defense, special teams, some takeaways. What I would like to impress upon you before I go any further is this team is 9 practices into the first spring with a new staff, new head coach, new system, new philosophy, new terminology, and roughly 60 new players. They're not even in full pads. They're helmet, shoulder pads, and shorts. This was not even a full tackle scrimmage. It was thud, what you'd call it, not tackle to the ground. So all of the stuff that we talk about here, I beg you to take with a grain of salt. It's really just a jumping off point, a marker to say at this point, boom, this is where they are right now. And I'm really glad we had this opportunity to go watch the team. Last week, when Lane Kiffin met with reporters on Tuesday, he said that this is if they were to play a game right now, this would be a defensive football team. And the way he kind of said it was, if last Saturday's scrimmage was any indication. Well, based on the 2 hours of scrimmage that we got to see Saturday, this is a defensive football team, y'all. Now, there's some caveats, right? You don't even have your starting quarterback participating. That's one giant one. You have all of the new on offense, new head coach, new offense coordinator, new system, new terminology, new players, all the new. And defensively, you have so much retention. Blake Baker's back. His whole staff, save Kyle Williams, is back. You have returning players at every level of your defense and some really talented newcomers. And generally speaking, the defense tends to be ahead of the offense anyway because the defense can read, react, fly around, just be a little more, let athleticism and instinct take over, whereas the offense has to execute the play. There's timing with quarterbacks and receivers. There's continuity with the offensive line, all that sort of stuff. A lot of that's already in place for the defense. So what's clear is the offense has a ways to go. I mentioned there were 19 possessions. In those 19 possessions, there were 5 interceptions, a lost fumble, a missed field goal. Now, there were 6 touchdowns in the 19 possessions, and you may go, that's pretty good. 3 of the touchdowns were the third team. Emil Picarella led the third team offense, and they scored on all 3 possessions when it was 3s-on-3s, which tells you the depth is probably with the offense when you get to the 3s. The problem is your first team in the 9 possessions, the 9 offensive possessions, by the way, they started at various spots on the field. Sometimes they started at the 25. Sometimes they started at midfield. Sometimes they started literally at their own 2-yard line. Incidentally, the 1 touchdown the first team scored was the drive when they started at the 2-yard line. There was a 3-yard rush and then a 95-yard catch and run by Winnie Watkins for a touchdown. More on that in just a quick second. So here was the result of the possessions from the 1s. They didn't punt, so they went for it on 4th down whenever they got to a 4th down. So it was downs, interception, downs, interception, touchdown, downs. The 2s, downs, interception, missed field goal, interception, touchdown, fumble, touchdown. And then the 3s, as I mentioned, scored on all 3 possessions. If I have one big, gigantic, overarching takeaway from this scrimmage, it's you better hope that you hit on Sam Levitt and that he's back and ready to go. And I don't mean that to be completely dismissive of Landon Clark and Husan Longstreet, but neither one of those guys right now looks like a guy ready to go run this offense and lead you to the heights many people have the expectation of this team. It's not to say they can't ever get there, not to say they can't get there this year. It's just to say you went and spent a bunch of money on Sam Levitt because he was the number 1 quarterback in the portal. Landon Clark threw 2 horrific interceptions where he absolute same play, seam route, sailed it horribly, and threw it right into the waiting arms of the safeties. One was to Marcus Cooley, one was Ty Benefield. 2 of the interceptions that Husan Longstreet threw were both to Aiden Anding with the 2s. And in both plays, Aiden Anding made spectacular plays. One was a 50-50 ball near the pylon. Aiden Anding wrestled it away. The other was a play actually where Aiden Anding got hurt out in the right flat. I also think that it's pretty clear, and I don't think you needed to go watch a scrimmage to know this. Like, you just look at any of Lane Kiffin's offenses. We actually talked about this last week. The quarterbacks are going to run a lot in this offense, and maybe the biggest advantage you have with both Longstreet and Landon Clark is that both are really athletic and pretty talented runners also. There were quarterback draws. There were read options that we saw. And there were times where, in the face of pressure, they scrambled, moved the pocket. That's something that we saw Trinidad Chambliss do a lot a year ago at Ole Miss. And that's going to be a part of this offense. As I've mentioned, every year. So Lane Kiffin was at Ole Miss for 6 seasons. All 6 seasons he was there, his quarterback had over 100 rushing attempts on the season. All 6. And in most of the years, I think all but 2, in 4 of the 6 years, the quarterback was the second leading rusher. So we know Levitt has that type of athleticism, and we'll see it when he's healthy and out there. But both Landon Clark and Husan Longstreet both relied a lot on their feet. Small sample again, but I think right now anyway, it's pretty clear that your 2 biggest threats offensively are Trey'Dez Green and Winnie Watkins, and for 2 very different reasons. One is that, well, Trey'Dez Green is 6'7", 250 pounds, and a gigantic mismatch against anyone he faces. And they move him all over the formation. We saw him play the X receiver spot. We saw him attached as a tight end. We saw him in the slot. He was lined up as an H-back. There was one play where we saw 3 tight ends, where Trey'Dez lined up as the X, Malachi Thomas was a 3-point stance attached tight end, and Zach Grace from Oregon was lined up as the H-back. So they moved 14 all over the formation. And he is going to be a massive target. The other, as I mentioned, was Winnie Watkins, and this really makes a lot of sense because of his familiarity with this offense, with Lane Kiffin's offense, the terminology, the timing, all of it. I mentioned he scored on the 95-yard catch and run. There was a play where it was a 3rd and short where they just ran a simple out route to Watkins, timing route, boom, on the sideline, catch, first down. I wouldn't be surprised at all, and based on, again, a small sample size, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Winnie Watkins caught 50 balls this coming season. I just think there's just a very clear degree of comfort and knowledge and understanding of this system, which gives him a gigantic advantage over everybody else in that room. I told you that I wanted to see the offensive line and early returns, but not great. Jordan Seaton was flagged twice for holding. There were 3 false start penalties, 2 on the same drive, actually in consecutive plays. And they did allow an awful lot of pressure. Again, I think you have 5 trying to learn to play as 1, and you have a really good, aggressive defensive front that was creating a lot of that pressure. And there were some times when LSU struggled to run in short yardage situations as well. There was a sequence where LSU gained 8 yards on a first down play on a pitch and catch to Dylan Jones. So it was 2nd and 2. They ran it. He gained a yard. So it was 3rd and 1. Ran it. It was a TFL by Deshaun Spears. Felt very familiar to what we saw a year ago. So a really rough day for the LSU offense against that defense, and a long way to go. The silver lining, of course, is the defense looks outstanding. I want to break, come back, and I'll pick up with that. I'll tell you what I saw specifically from the defense. I do have some special teams notes and some overall notes and takeaways that I want to get to as well. Our show open every day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer, your Fighting Tigers of LSU. Hey, Tiger baseball returns to the box this weekend, and our friends over at Mockler Beverage have teamed up with us to put together a prize pack. We'll be giving away 1 prize pack every day this week here on AFR. All you have to do is use our show text line, 225-499-1045. Again, that's our new text line for the radio station, 225-499-1045, 499-1045. Text the words Drink Easy. One word, text Drink Easy to 499-1045. Text Drink Easy to 499-1045, and you're entered to win. It's a case of Bud Light. It's a Bud Light LSU baseball jersey, national championship koozies. We'll throw some 104.5 ESPN swag in there as well. Again, we're going to announce the winner at the top of hour number 3, and we're going to do this every day this week here on AFR. So got 5 prize packs, a chance to win. Just text Drink Easy to 225-499-1045 for your chance to win. Drink Easy with the great taste of Bud Light. Okay, quick break. Come back. I'll talk about my defensive takeaways from the scrimmage. Don't you move. It's AFR.
AFR.
Man, I love telling you about Clegg's Nursery, especially this time of year, because my goodness, the weather is beautiful. We're actually going to get a little bit of a warm-up this week. We're going to push close to 90 degrees. Y'all, I know it's spring. Summer's here. It is time to start getting your lawn and garden ready if you haven't already. We talk about all the flowers and the plants and the trees and the shrubs and all the beautiful things to add that pop of color to your outdoor area, your flower beds, your patio pots, everything. But remember, if you have those unwanted pests as well, Clegg's can help get rid of them. Having trouble with weeds in your lawn, they can get rid of those weeds in your lawn. If you have mosquitoes, they got the Aeon mosquito barrier. Maybe you have ant hills or anything else like that you need to get rid of, those unwanted pests, wasp spray. They got all of it at Clegg's Nursery. So get on by any of the 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area. Buy local, shop local. Be sure to tell them that Matt sent you in when you go see our friends today at Clegg's Nursery.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
All right, glad you're rolling along with us here on a Monday edition of AFR presented by Relief Windows. We are going through the LSU scrimmage from this past weekend. By the way, one other interesting note, I'm very glad to hear this, but they advised us that Lane Kiffin is opening practice for the rest of spring to the media. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then the quote-unquote spring game, that final day. Full access. So that's a surprise. It's certainly a change. A couple of weeks ago when we were there at the media availability, Lane opened his availability by saying I want to help you guys do your job. So let us know if there's something that you want. Since some places don't want full access. I'm like, I cannot imagine anybody who wouldn't want the option to go watch the full practice. Obviously, it helps us do our job much better. It's time commitment, but I mean that's why we get paid to do our jobs. So tomorrow, so Tuesday, Thursday of this week, and then Saturday in Tiger Stadium, we'll be there for the full practice, and we'll have practice reports at LouisianaSports.net. I'll have them on Locked on LSU and, of course, here on AFR and across 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. And so we open talking about the offense, and we use some defensive takeaways. So, obviously, it was a great day for the defense. They came away with 5 interceptions. Tamarcus Cooley, Ty Benefield each had a pick. Aiden Anding had 2 interceptions. And it was P.J. Woodland, was the third. And it was the first play. It was the first play of the series where they kind of went on an out route, and Woodland jumped a route and was a really, really great defensive play. So the 5 interceptions and the fumble recovery had 6 takeaways. The fumble recovery was Landon Clark was at quarterback, and they were running he was scrambling to his left. A back was going with him, and so late he tried to option pitch as the defender was coming to him, and they fumbled the pitch, and it was recovered by Jace Thomas. That was with the 2s. So, and by the way, it is worth noting also that both Clark and Longstreet took reps with the 1s and the 2s. So Landon Clark had 5 series with the 1s. Husan Longstreet had 4 series with the 1s. So they both had opportunities to run with the 1s and the 2s. There were 2 long touchdowns in the game. There was a 95-yarder to Winnie Watkins, and then a 74-yarder to Malachi Thomas. The Winnie Watkins touchdown was with the 1s. The Malachi Thomas touchdown was with the 2s, and it was identical plays in consecutive possessions. The offense was starting from their own 2. When the 1s scored their touchdown, they had a 3-yard run, and then the pass over the middle about 20 yards downfield to Watkins, and then it was a foot race that he beat everybody and scored on a 95-yarder. Here's the caveat. That was later in the scrimmage, and they had replaced Cooley and Benefield with Fahim Delane and Jace Thomas. And so the reception, Fahim Delane came underneath Watkins. Watkins made the reception, and then Jace Thomas missed a tackle. And so then it was a foot race with Winnie Watkins and Deshaun Spears, and Watkins basically beat him to the end zone. So the 1 touchdown that the first offense scored against first defense victimized the 2 backup safeties that were running with the 1s at that point. The 74-yarder to Malachi Thomas was an identical play. It was against the 2s, same thing. I mean, seam route, safety came underneath, there wasn't help back, and it was a foot race to the end zone. I mean, almost identical plays in consecutive possessions. I do want to highlight Aiden Anding, who had a couple of interceptions, both of Husan Longstreet. He was injured on his second interception. Anding was lined up at left cornerback. They were in a little bit of a zone formation, and he sort of just baited Longstreet into the throw. And he just waited, and when the ball was released, he just sort of Superman just leapt into the throwing lane and came up with the interception. He was not contacted, but he came up limp and had to be carried off the field. He was on the training table for a long time. They fitted him for a boot and crutches. So hopefully it's just maybe a little ankle sprain and nothing Serious. We'll see if we can get an update on him. But Aiden Anding running with the 2s certainly was one of the standouts of the day. Ross, Uman Mielen, Daughtery all had sacks in the game as well. The Daughtery sack was on the first possession of the scrimmage, and Landon Clark was in at quarterback, and he was flush to his right, and Daughtery was staying home at his linebacker position. And once he saw Clark flushed, he just, at a 45-degree angle, straight line, boom, to his left, the right side of the offensive formation, and sacked Landon Clark. That's one of the plays where Clark's got to get rid of the football, but Daughtery showed off incredible instinct, speed, agility, all that to get to the spot at that moment. It was a really impressive play by Daughtery on that sack. I shared a little bit of this earlier, but this sequence, I think, was a microcosm of the day for both the offense and the defense. So on the second possession the first team had, on first down, they run a toss sweep and lose a yard. Struggle to run. On second down, they throw it to Trey Green for 25 yards. Okay, boom. Yeah, you're past midfield now. I think they've got out to about the 47-yard line. First down, they throw it to Dylan Jones, the Wisconsin transfer running back. We've talked a lot about him. He's been really impressive up to this point. I would say Dylan Jones and probably Malik Elzy maybe are the biggest risers offensively so far through spring early on. So it's an 8-yard reception, so it's 2nd and 2, and they run it with Dylan Jones on 2nd and 2. He gains a yard. So now it's 3rd and 1. They're going to run it with Dylan Jones again. And Deshaun Spears crashes in and gets a TFL for a loss of a yard. So now it's 4th and 3. He lost 2. So it's 4th and 3. And remember, I told you there's no punts, so they're going for it. And on 4th and 3, Jordan Seaton gets flagged for a hold. That was sort of a microcosm of the day. Trey had a really nice reception, inability to run the football. Your offensive line gets flagged for a hold on a 4th and 3. It was just on a 3rd and 1, the defense came up with the big play. That was kind of a microcosm of how the whole day went. And it was if you take away a positive, a real positive, it's, man, your defense looks poised to build on what was a top 30 defense nationally a year ago. You've added some really talented transfer players. You've got a lot of continuity. And by the way, Whit Weeks isn't even participating right now. And you're going to have him ready to roll obviously by the opener. So a lot of good defensively, a lot of room to grow for the offense. Special teams, we got to see all 3 kickers in a special teams period. Scott Starzik missed from 37, and during the scrimmage, he had the miss from 56. Got a huge leg, but he missed. The other 2 kickers made each of their kicks during the special teams period. Silas Hall was snapping during field goals. Hayden Craig was the holder. And then for punts, it was Mulhern, the Florida transfer, who was the snapper. And Craig was the first punter, and Chadwick was the second. Interestingly, Craig is left-footed, Chadwick is right-footed, so you have a little bit of a contrast there depending on which way they go. They both, I thought, acquitted themselves very nicely. Your punt returners were Trey Wilson, in this order: Trey Wilson, Winnie Watkins, Jace Brown, Jabari Mack, and Najur Granger. Those were the 5, and Granger muffed one, and there was no rush. It was a period where they were snapping, punting, and then you had your punt returners deep, and Granger muffed one, so that was certainly disappointing. But those were the returners as well. A few other notes, maybe should have led with this. Sam Levitt was out there, interestingly enough. So Levitt last week posted on social that he had the pins removed from his foot from the original Liz Frank injury. And when Lane Kiffin met with reporters on Tuesday, he was asked point blank if Levitt would be out there, and he said doesn't think so, that he thought he missed the rest of spring. Well, Saturday, Sam Levitt was out there. Now he was in helmet, shoulder pads, and sneakers, so all the other quarterbacks were in cleats. Levitt did not do any of the team drills, but he was during the individual period out there throwing with the receivers and working on handoffs, so that was good to see. And we did see him jog a little bit as well. Not like for cardio, just jogging station to station. So, I mean, less than a week removed from having 5 days removed from having pins removed from your foot. The fact that he was out there and actually moving around, I thought was a pretty good sign. Great to see Whit Weeks out there, even when the 3s were out there. I mean, he was on the defensive sideline, so the offense was on the west sideline, the defense was on the east sideline. Whit was at the line of scrimmage, wherever the ball was placed, like on every snap, shouting out encouragement. It didn't matter if it was 1s, 2s, or 3s. So, I mean, this is clearly his team, his defense, and he's out there engaged, even if he's not participating. Solomon Thomas was out there. A lot of people have asked. He had a boot on his foot in a scooter. He had one of those knee scooters, so continues to not participate. But we did see him out there in a boot. Deuce Geralds, who missed a practice last week during the media avail, was not participating in the individual part before the scrimmage, but did participate in the scrimmage. Richard Anderson was the opposite. Richard Anderson participated in the individual work, but we did not see him participate in the scrimmage portion. And then maybe one other change on the offensive line where we had seen Bryson Martinez running with the twos at left tackle. That now is Sean Tompkins, the transfer from Baylor. So that's the only real notable change. Satterwhite, the Tennessee transfer, has been running with the second team at center. And Darren Stray has been running it with the second team at right tackle. And your guards remained unchanged. It was Sprinkle at right guard and Devin Harper at left guard, with Bo Bordelon running at left guard with the one. So just a few notes as LSU went through a 2+ hour scrimmage in Tiger Stadium Saturday that the media got to watch the entirety of. And I will also relate that they asked us when they let us in. Obviously, there was no photo or video, but they also asked us not to write down or disclose like a play-by-play and formations and all that stuff. We do takeaways. And I mean, if you followed any of the content, the post-game stuff we've done over the years, I mean, I chart every play of games, just my shorthand and my process. So I did that for this as well, but not with the intent of going and revealing play-by-play, because they asked us specifically not to do that. I don't want to do something that would get us, get our access revoked. But hopefully these notes are helpful. If there's anything that you'd like us to see as we go out to practice Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and for the remainder of spring, we'll certainly keep an eye on it. All right, it's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU Athletics. Matter of fact, got to see EJ Kuiper, the president and CEO of FMOL. He was out there Saturday watching the Tigers scrimmage. Always great to see our friends from the lake. And, of course, whenever the Tigers are injured during the course of scrimmage or game action or practices, they trust the lake, championship health partner of LSU Athletics. They get the Tigers healthy and ready to roll throughout all of their seasons across every single sport, and not just the champions on the field. Of course, they have the contract with the LSU Student Health Center and everyday champions like you and me for our everyday health concerns and specialty care like heart care, stroke, cancer, pediatrics. They do it all. They do it better than anyone. They bring world-class care right here home to Baton Rouge. It's Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU Athletics. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together, we roar. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. Glad you're hanging out with us here on this busy Monday. A lot to get to. In 30 minutes, I'll give you my takeaways from LSU's weekend sweep at the hands of the Ole Miss Rebels. Not a whole lot to say about the weekend that was. I mean, it's what it was. We watched it. But what does it mean moving forward for the remainder of the season? We'll dive into some of that here in about half an hour. David DeLucci in hour number 3. Jake Madison, 1 hour from right now. Pelican season came to an end yesterday. So we'll put a button on the season and maybe look ahead to what should be a pretty pivotal offseason as Pels are going to hire a new head coach. So we'll get to all that with Jake Madison 1 hour from right now. Stay with us. It's AFR.
AFR.
If you've heard me talk about Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, and you kind of been on the fence if it's time to call or book an appointment, let this be the push. Man, it doesn't matter how old you are. It's more about how you feel. And you might say, Matt, I don't have ED. Great. I'm pumped for you. That's fine. Because Goodwood does ED treatments, not just the pills. They have a lot of different things. So if you do have ED, they can help. But it's so much more than that. Hormone replacement therapy. They have dozens of different peptide therapies as well that you've heard me talk about, the success that I've had with a lot of different peptides, from BPC 157 for muscle and tissue repair. It's been great for my back. NAD+, which is cellular optimization, incredible for energy levels. So many things like Sermorelin, which is a growth hormone peptide, which stimulates your body's natural growth hormone. This isn't like HGH from the 90s that made dudes' heads swell. If you want to live your fullest life, they can help. Visit them online at yourgoodwood.com. That's yourgoodwood.com.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding. And oh, we do shutters too.
Failure happens to us all, but it's our champions.
I will go around the SEC here in just a quick second. Glad to have you hanging out with us here. The LSU men's basketball team made it official. They have added Damon Stoudemire to the coaching staff. So Will Wade now with 3 official hires. It got started with Rick Stansberry, and then they, of course, added Johnny Jones officially on Friday. We reported over at LouisianaSports.net on Friday that Stoudemire was on LSU's campus Friday, and that a deal was expected to get done. It did. They officially announced it here today. So that's 3 former head coaches that are now on Will Wade's staff with Stansbury Jones and Damon Stoudemire. So an all-star staff that they're building. Now he's got to build a roster. Robert Williams III also entered the portal. So Jalen Reese is the only member of Matt McMahon's final team that's still on the roster as of now. And Will Wade, while they've targeted, P.J. Haggerty was the guy we talked about last week from Kansas State, who they targeted. He ended up signing with Texas A&M. So the Tigers are still looking here to build a roster, and I kind of get the sense that this feels a lot like what it did with football, where Lane Kiffin got the job on that Sunday. He was introduced on, it was like December the 1st. He was introduced that Monday, and then it was the whole month was like building the staff and leading up to the portal, right? Even in his introductory press conference where he was like, we're going to do great recruiting in high school, but man, with that logo and this brand and what we did at the former place, that he knew they were going to go ham in the portal. So the portal opened on January 2nd, and we were all expecting this just windfall of commits to happen immediately, and it just didn't happen. They had a lot of visits, but it was slow to get the commits. But once they started rolling, it was Katie bar the door, and we know what happened after that. It feels very similar right now for Will Wade, as it's about visits and targets and identifying prospects and filling out the coaching staff. But, look, they got to rebuild the roster, and they're going to rebuild this roster here clearly through the transfer portal, as you have one scholarship player remaining from a year ago, one player remaining from the roster of this past season. So, I don't know, man. You could look at it and say, similar to football, would you want some of the guys to have stayed to maintain continuity, or on a team that was 3-15 in the conference, are you better off going to get new players who might be better players, who might better fit what this coaching staff wants to do? So we'll be patient. We'll give them time to work it out and see how they build the roster. But it's official. Damon Stoudemire has been introduced now as the third member of Will Wade's staff. All right, it's after further review. We'll go around the SEC in a sec. We're brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. You can always download the Rouse's app as well. And the reason be beneficial to download the app. Remember, if you go to the Rouse's app, you're doing your shopping, download the Rouse's app, pick out your items. If it's more than $30 that you're spending, it's a free service to have your personal shopper go pick out your items. Then you pull up into one of the designated spaces, and they bring it out to you. Saves you time, way more efficient. It's Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. 76 locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach. They always got the hot bar and seafood bar menu as well. If you want to go pick up dinner, lunch any day of the week, dinner for the whole family, it's at Rouse's. Any of the Rouse's locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach and points in between. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Rouse's, this feels like home. Okay, do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Junior wide receiver Jaylen Brown. Remember him? Former LSU wide receiver Jaylen Brown. He's no longer a member of the Razorbacks program. He was arrested Friday for allegedly hindering apprehension or prosecution. Apparently, he lied to police about an incident that occurred in his home involving 3 females. Anyway, Brown, who started his career at LSU, was booted from Florida State's team last spring after he was arrested for possession of a controlled substance. Now, the former top 100 overall prospect, booted from Arkansas as well. So wherever he goes, he'll be on his 4th team.
The Kentucky Wildcats.
4-star quarterback Jake Norott has committed to Kentucky, the number 2 quarterback in the Rivals 300. Kentucky beat out Iowa, where he's a legacy, and Oregon. Kansas State was one of the finalists as well. Joe Sloan played a pretty big role here in the quarterback choosing the Wildcats. He'll also be in L.A. this summer for the Elite 11 finals.
The Florida Gators.
Defensive back Amari Fountain has flipped from South Carolina to Florida. 6'3", 182. Had been committed to the Gamecocks, but all throughout the spring, he'd been visiting John Sumrall's squad down there in Gainesville. 4-star. He's the 6th commit for the Gators. He's the number 135 prospect in the country, the 17th best cornerback.
The Missouri Tigers.
Mizzou's first game at Kansas since 2005 will come a day earlier. The 2 programs have announced that game will be moved from Saturday, September the 12th to the night of Friday, September the 11th. Of course, Missouri and Kansas revived their rivalry in 2025 after they hadn't played in 14 years since Missouri came into the SEC. They've got 2 more games scheduled after this year, at Missouri in 2031 and then at Kansas in 2032.
The Texas Longhorns.
On the hardwood, TCU forward David Punch has committed to Sean Miller and the Longhorns. 2 seasons of eligibility remaining. He's the 7th best player in the portal, the number 1 power forward. 6'7", 246. He joins Colorado guard Isaiah Johnson in committing to the Longhorns. Punch started 27 games for the Horned Frogs as a freshman.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
And Georgia forward Kareem Stagg was arrested for speeding and driving without a valid license. No, this is not a football-only issue, apparently, there in Athens. He was driving his 2023 Tesla 22 miles an hour over the speed limit. He just announced that he's returning to Georgia for next basketball season. 6'8", 230-pound forward appeared in 33 games with 9 starts. All right, there you have it. That is Around the SEC. Our Monday shows are presented by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Had a great chance to hang out with Brandon and Adrian Holly on Saturday. As a matter of fact, we were over at L'Auberge for the Titan Combat Championship, of which Gordon and Relief Windows were the title sponsors. So great opportunity to hang out with my good friends and spend some time this past Saturday. And you're reminded every time you talk to them why they are all about experience, quality, and service. Yes, they sell windows and doors and siding and shutters and shades, but what Brandon always says is their number 1 product is customer service. And you get it every time you talk to Brandon. It's something he impresses upon everybody within their organization. You will always have an incredible customer service experience, and they never take a dollar until they're done and you're thrilled. It's Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. Glad to have you aboard with us here. Congrats to Rory McIlroy, who won the Masters. Little bit of a bummer for Sam Burns, who went into the final day, part of the second-to-last pairing, he and Shane Lowry. And Burns, who had a really nice Masters tournament, but just carded a 73 on Sunday. So after a 67 on Friday, a 67 on Thursday, a 71 on Friday, a 68 on Saturday, put himself in striking range. But carded a 73 on the final day there on Sunday. So finished tie for 7th, the former LSU Tiger, the Shreveport native. Sam Burns' day will come to be a Masters champion, no doubt about that. But that was Rory's day as Rory becomes the 4th golfer to go back-to-back at the Masters. So congrats to Rory. Congrats to Sam Burns on a top 10 finish at a major championship. But no doubt, better days ahead still for Sam Burns. All right, it's After Further Review, y'all. Let me knock out our final break of hour number 1. Another gigantic recruiting decision is coming, and this one involving a 5-star from Baton Rouge. Got some thoughts on it next. It's AFR.
After Further Review.
We're brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. Look for the big yellow vans and trucks with the giant clock on the side. You see them all over town because so many people like me called River City's 1 Hour Air. We leave 5-star Google reviews. At River City's 1 Hour Air, they got more than double the amount of 5-star Google reviews of the next closest competitor because for 40 years, they've been doing great work at a fair price and treating people awesome. And when that's your formula, you're going to hang around for 40 years. So I want to remind you, it's 84 degrees in Baton Rouge right now. Temps are going to get close to 90 this week. If you have not yet called River City's 1 Hour Air for your AC tune-up, it's time. Make sure you do this. They'll come out to the house. They'll check, make sure your AC is in tip-top shape for the coming warm weather, the warm weather that's here, to make sure it lasts throughout the summer months. And if there is a small issue, prevent it from becoming a big, expensive issue. It's River City's 1 Hour Air, 752-0001.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
All right, we're wrapping up hour number 1. Baseball Tigers were swept at Ole Miss this weekend. I'll get to the series recap here in about 12 minutes from right now. And I don't know a lot to say about the series. It's more about looking forward for the rest of the season, so we'll do that coming up here in about a dozen minutes. So we found out over the weekend, hat tip to our buddy Sam Spiegelman over at Rivals, Elijah Haven is set to announce his commitment on April 25th. He's down to 3 schools, 3 SEC schools. It's Bama, Auburn, and Georgia. So Haven's going to commit to one of those 3. It feels very much like Alabama has been trending there for a long time. You know, there's an old adage that we all know, that the grass is not always greener. I really, really, really hope, for LSU's sake, that this is one they don't end up regretting. And I know from a fan's perspective, we all look at the star rating and we see a 5-star, the number 1 quarterback in the country from Baton Rouge, and you're going, why aren't you recruiting this kid? Like, why are you letting him go to Bama, Georgia, or Auburn? And I think it's layered. And by the way, I think the world of Elijah Haven. He sat in our studio, was it a year ago, maybe? When the first time I met him, he was just shy of his 16th birthday and could not have been more impressed. Got to see Elijah and his dad, Kwame, at the Super Bowl as well. He was, by the way, you might have seen the EA Sports announcement a week ago. Well, Elijah was at Super Bowl Radio Row with the folks from EA doing an appearance there. So I got to see him, got to visit with him a little bit there. Just like an incredibly impressive young guy. Not just the fact that he's 6'5", 220, but the fact that he's brilliant. I mean, he's a 35 on the ACT. He's so personable and respectful. Like, you hear people say he's the kind of kid that you'd want your daughter to marry, like that kind of. I mean, he's a great kid, super smart. Oh, by the way, he's 6'5", 200, and he's a freak show, right? I mean, he's amazing. Great family, everything. And so, Elijah's family's from Georgia, so they're not necessarily like diehard LSU people, but Elijah is. Like, he's grown up here. He's gone to LSU games, and his friends are going to LSU and all that sort of stuff. And this is one of those things where LSU just didn't recruit him hard. Like, they made a decision. And I think you've had this weird circumstance between 2 staffs. I believe that the Brian Kelly staff got burned by Bryce Underwood and didn't want to have the same thing happen maybe with Haven. And so they had a bird in hand with Peyton Houston, who they really liked, and this kid from Louisiana who was pushing to commit. Like, he wanted LSU. So they took his commitment. And by the way, Pop Houston looks awesome. I am not in any way diminishing that. But it's hard not to look at the kid that's 6'5", 220, the number 1 quarterback in the country, who's in Baton Rouge and wanted to go to your school. It's hard. It's a hard thing not to look at. Well, Brian Kelly gets fired. Lane Kiffin comes in. And apparently Kiffin at Ole Miss wasn't heavily recruiting Haven. And a lot of it is just sort of the style. I mean, just look at the quarterbacks that Kiffin had at Ole Miss. Chambliss. They have Chambliss listed at 6'1", which is a joke. Dude's maybe 5'10". Jackson Dart, they have him at 6'2", 223. That's probably generous at 6'2". I don't think Jackson Dart's 6'2". Matt Corral, they have listed at 6'1", 205. I don't know that Matt Corral is 6'1". Peyton Houston listed at 5'10", 202. Elijah Haven, 6'5", 220. Like, he doesn't fit the mold of what Lane Kiffin usually has at quarterback in his system. Peyton Houston does. But sometimes you break the mold for the right player. And I want great things for Elijah Haven. I don't want great things for Alabama, Auburn, or Georgia. And he's going to go to one of those places, and I really don't want him to win anything at any of those places. Two things can be true at the same time. Very excited about the future with Peyton Houston at LSU because he looks dynamic and awesome and fits the skill set of what Lane Kiffin wants, and Louisiana kid and wants LSU and all that. He's all in. I love that. That is true. I'm fired up about that. I'm also looking at a 6'5", 220-pound quarterback from Baton Rouge who wanted to go to LSU, and LSU made a different decision. And it makes me go, I hope you're right. All right. Elijah Haven set to commit here in less than 2 weeks. All right, it's after further review. Monday shows are presented by Relief Windows. Let me knock out a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get SportsCenter, get you caught up on national headlines. When we come back after the top of the hour, we'll talk a little LSU baseball. Really disappointing weekend in Oxford. We'll get to that next here on AFR.
After further review.
Brought to you by Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service, ShawBillsTire.com. Locations all over South Louisiana. You know where to find them. ShawBillsTire.com, ShawBillsTire.com. Hey, look, at Shaw Bills, they're going to sell you name brand tires at wholesale prices. We talk about that all the time. And they guarantee it. It's part of the Charlie's Dozen. A dozen benefits guaranteed to you and your family whenever you do business at Shaw Bills. One of them is Charlie's Price Match Guarantee. So here's how it works. You buy tires at Shaw Bills. Right? Look, tires are a commodity. You buy a Michelin, it don't matter where you go, it's the same tire. Michelin, Bridgestone, BF Goodrich, Firestone, Toyo, same thing. So why would you go anywhere other than the place that's going to sell to you the cheapest and get you the best service? So that's what they guarantee you at Shaw Bills. Buy tires at Shaw Bills. Find that tire advertised cheaper somewhere else. They're going to refund you 125% of the difference. It's at Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com. Shaw Bills, we keep you rolling.